Gardens once again.
Once again, it's great to. I love your kitchen. It's great to see you in your kitchen, and we're going to be cooking up some collards today as part of our February theme. I feel like collards are just so like dark green, thick. Like they're really such a great essence of what it means to be like a dark leafy green. You know what I mean?
Did you have some collard greens in your garden, Mary Sheila?
Actually, all from my garden.
Yeah. Can you show some close-ups of those beautiful, just picked?
Yeah, and just to tell the story about these particular collards, look at these gorgeous collards.
Oh, they're
So
so precious.
I know, isn't that beautiful? So what's kind of funny is that this year with the pandemic, I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she was probably 18 at the time, and the pandemic happened, and it just kind of threw us all off our rocker. But one of the things she did is she just got in the garden. It was springtime. She just got in the garden. She just started planting, and we're seed savers, so we started planting all kinds of seeds. And I thought these were broccoli rabe, so I didn't touch them for a long time. I was waiting for the flowers. Well, it turned out they were collards, and they're still going strong. They've just been giving and giving. I planted them really close together, which probably was too close, but they're doing great. So yay!
And you know what? As babies, they look a lot like broccoli rabe because
Yeah,
if you look at a broccoli leaf, it has a very similar texture.
yeah, they're in the
There's something to be
same
said for
family.
that texture, which is
Yeah,
quite silky. Like if you put your hands on dino kale and then on a collard or a broccoli leaf, there's a completely different texture there. And they're very thick and wet. They're full of moisture. You can even honestly, you could even like carve a sweet nothing into this and you'd be able to spell something out. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
yeah,
it's that juicy and slightly, it's not in the succulent family, but it's very succulent and
yeah,
juicy. And it's part of what makes it last through the winter
yes,
and keep growing this time of year is its thick, hearty kaffa and healthy kaffa
yeah, yeah,
wet
yeah,
in its most healthy form ever. And look at how kaffa, full bodied, robust, this leaf
yeah.
size is compared to other leafy greens.
That's a really beautiful, huge, beautiful collard.
Yeah. Mine are not from the garden. So this is where we get to tell you to meet your kitchen wherever and your food wherever you are. But that's why I'm like, let's have Mary Sheila show us what just literally is like alive and straight from the soil. And I strive for that myself.
Yeah,
I grow more of my spices and herbs and different forms of medicine, but I'm so inspired by Mary Sheila in her garden. Feels like a little mini farm.
yeah.
So we're doing a few different things today with these collards, right? So now you just got our intro on like how amazing is this? And green tells you magnesium. You can see the white in the veins in the venous system, right? The blood nutrients lines of this plant, just like our body. Look at my bloodlines look like the lines in this. Seriously. And it's a beautiful thing because it really just allows us to do so many things with the size of a leaf. And I'm going to make, and then we'll see what Mary Sheila's making. I'm going to make some winter spring rolls. So this is the big roll. And I have some fun little ways of kind of making these spring rolls really easy and all in one. And so that's going to be fun. And it's a winter spring roll. So there's actually also a sauteed ingredient, so we'll play that out. And then what are you doing today?
So I am going to just do like a saute with the collards. So traditionally, we think of collards as like a southern with bacon or pancetta. So I thought I would try to match that umami with some capers. And a lot of times because collards are so coppa, they cook for a lot longer, right? Like if you were going to put spinach in something, it's so thin, you literally put it in for the last, you almost want to just wilt it for the last minute or something. Collards require more cooking, and they require even a little more water added. So I thought what I do, sometimes I might use my broth. I'm out of broth. So I thought I'd make a little miso broth to add a little more of that umami that the bacon would normally give it. So I'm just going to do a saute. I'm going to also add a little vinegar. I'm just going to try to flavor it up, and I'm going to finish it off with some pecans. Yum.
That's beautiful.
And just I'm just showing you, the first thing that I'm doing with my collards is, the white stem is pretty woody, pretty tough, and I really want my collards to be tender. So what I do this with kale too, and I'm sure a lot of you do this, but I'm just taking my collard and I'm just going like that. I don't mind this part of the stem. If I wanted to get rid of more, I can. But because they're going to cook down, I think it's going to be fine. But I'm just going to go through my collards and just, that one I got a lot more of the stem. And I'm just going to, and then I'm going to layer them all the same way so that it's going to be real easy for me to chop them. So that's what I'm going to be busy doing for the next few minutes.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do before I get to my collards, I'm going to actually do a little saute, and I really tried to just make sure I had collards today, and then kind of, hey, what's in my fridge, and I like to cook that way so that I'm being spontaneous with what I have, and I'm also making a practice of finishing what I have before I go and get other ingredients. And that means I am working with asparagus. I had some beautiful asparagus this week. I wanted the astringency and the cleansing of fluids that this plant brings. And so I really did search this out. And you're going to just, go to the bottom and you're going to find about 2 inches or an inch up maybe. And you're going to just see, where does it snap? And where it snaps is where you take off all the hardy fibers. But I will tell you that this also could make, a very good tea if you wanted to keep getting a little bit more of asparagus medicine, not just when you ate it. I could take these ends and I could make an asparagus tea. I could add other things in there and I could get a little kidney flush, like just a little fluid flush. And I'm just going to put these in little bite-sized pieces so they'll be dispersed. They're about an inch, but I'm dispersing them throughout this stuffed collard.
I love what you just said too. And I just want to pick up on that, like the bite-sized pieces, because I think, sometimes when we're cooking something, we think what size should I make it? And you want to think about bite size, like what's gonna fit into your mouth really well. It's funny, I went to have a salad the other day out, and the lettuce pieces were like so huge. But I thought, and I know maybe that was part of the style of the lettuce, but it just reminded me of like bite-sized pieces really make it easier. I mean, I can use a knife and fork, but it just felt like a lot of times I was taking a bite and having to put my hand over my mouth, just to get it in. So, anyways, that bite size is really nice. And then if you're cooking with like 3 or 4 different ingredients, then it might be making them all the same size, so the texture and the mouthfeel has a similarness to it. And I will say this one other thing is asparagus is such a great spring food. And Deanna and I have a cooking class, a full day cooking class coming up on April 25th. We'll drop the link in the comments, but we're going to be doing asparagus 3 ways.
Different than I'm doing it now.
Exactly. Different than what she's doing now, and different than maybe you ever even imagined you could do with asparagus. So we're really excited about this cooking class. And yeah, if you feel like joining us. So I want to just show you, so I've got all this collards and they're all stacked together pretty nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm putting them on my board and I'm just going to roll them long ways, nice and tight roll. And that's just going to make it really easy then for me to cut my collards and have them all ready to go. Nice and thin. And they're actually just gorgeous if I just even show you, what this looks like. This beautiful, nice. And again, I'm thinking mouthfeel. So I like things that I can fit in my mouth easily and I don't have to take a massive bite.
That's right.
I kind of come from a background of fast eating, so anything I can do to help me be a little more mindful is a good thing.
So what I'm doing now is I just took those little bite-sized 1-inch little pieces of asparagus and I'm sauteing them in coconut oil.
Mm.
And I am going a little bit more in the Asian flavor profile today, especially since this is a spring roll. So I'm just giving them a beautiful saute. And if you think about it, this is really vegetable rich, and half raw, half cooked. And that's really what I'm going for here. It's a half raw, half cooked. It's still winter. I want to stay warm, but I want to, keep my cleansing lifestyle. And so I'm really just giving this a go. And I'm going to add a few more things to this as it's cooking. And this is the only fat that is in this whole recipe is that coconut oil. So you really could go a little bit rich if you wanted a little oily in there. And that, is really good for cleaning the pipes and keeping everything nourished and coated. And
Or
then
what it makes me think of, Deanna, like you could have like a some kind of tahini or like fat-based dipping sauce for your spring rolls.
exactly. And I'm building the sauce in so that way it's just kind of like all in one and I can take them to work. And, I have a couple pet peeves with spring rolls. One is the bite size because, like you bite in and then you have to bite through every single little thing that's super long and then it's hard to do it and then the roll falls apart. So I like to make it a little bit that. And then I make it juicy inside. And we're going to be grating a few things too once we do the saute. And I'm going to put the saute sauce. Now, what is that? I'm now going to add lemon to my coconut oil. And these are my lemons from Mary Sheila's garden because she brought me some on my birthday and left them at my house with all these beautiful foods. It was so sweet. Thank you. I'm
Welcome.
going to add some
Birthday.
grated ginger. I have ginger juice. This is one of my favorite things, and you can juice it yourself, but I keep it around just in case I don't have time to juice it. It's by Ginger People, and it's a little cold pressed ginger, and I'm adding about 2 teaspoons. Really want that ginger flavor. And then I'm adding some coconut aminos, which is made from coconut tree flower blossoms. So this is made out of coconut flower blossoms, which is sustainable, and it makes cocoa aminos. So this is about your amino acids. And it's really a soy sauce tamari substitute. And I'm going to just turn this up a little and get it really on a saute. And then your other option, and we are in winter, is to start thinking about like I love these fermented chili pastes. I'm getting my probiotics and I'm getting chiles, which is like immunity, vitamin C, moving my lymph, clearing my blood, clearing my mind, clearing the lungs. And so they have so many of these amazing different chili pastes now that are in the ferment section for probiotics. And again, you could make this yourself, and I certainly know how, but these are things I like to keep in my kitchen in case I don't have time to make it.
Awesome.
And I'm putting about a teaspoon, but do it to heat level.
So I am going to, I boiled a little water earlier and I have a little bowl and I'm just going to show you, like, again, if you're out of some kind of sauce or broth and you want to make something kind of salty infused in there. So I've got maybe about a teaspoon of miso paste, and I'm just going to put a couple tablespoons of water in to start. And I'm just going to then, with the back of the spoon, dissolve my miso in there, in the water. Then I'll add a little more water. This just makes it so that I don't have a whole bunch of bumps and you know what I mean? Sometimes if you make your own miso and you get like a little miso ball, sometimes tastes kind of good, but that's not really what we're going for. And you can do this. I love sometimes if I have broth and in the afternoon, I'll make a little cup of miso broth, a bowl, like a cup of tea, and I'll do this with the broth first. I'll just put a tiny bit in there. I'll get it totally liquefied, and then I will add a little more water. So I'm going to probably have about a cup altogether. And this is just because when I cook the greens, I'm going to have a little liquid that I'm adding. Instead of just adding water, I'm adding my miso broth. I've got my pan turned on, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with sauteing my garlic and my capers. So I've got some capers. I have about a tablespoon of capers that I had in my fridge. And I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil, but I'm also going to put a little bit of the miso broth in there too, just so that the olive oil doesn't get that hot as far as like cooking with olive oil, just to keep the temperature down from the oil. So I'm going to add the broth first, and I'll just do it with a spoon and add a couple tablespoons. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of olive oil. Um, and then I'm going to add the garlic and the capers and let that saute for a moment before I add my collards. And I chopped up kind of a lot of garlic. I don't know. I was just feeling like I wanted garlic today.
Well,
Um,
those warming, cleansing, like, pairs with keeping things flowing in the winter, even if we're wanting to trust nourishment, we do have to keep things flowing, this
yeah.
time of year.
And I'm just to show you, I've got this nice chickpea miso that I'm using. It's from I don't know who the brand
I
is.
love that one.
Yeah, Miso Master, but it's a chickpea miso, so it's not a soy. So if you're not doing soy, this is a great alternative, and it's kind of a lighter miso.
I know it's milder, but it's really malty. It's got like a really great finish. I love that.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I've got these guys going, so they're starting to sizzle up a little bit. And then in just a moment, I'm going to add my collards. And what I am going to also add sort of near the end, and actually I might even add it into my liquid. I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar again, just to kind of round out the flavor, give it a little sour. So I'm going to just do 2 tablespoons. That kind of came out fast. Yeah, that's probably good. I can always add more. I'm adding that to my broth, just making it even more rich and flavorful. Ooh, I can smell the garlic. It's smelling good.
So one of the things I'm doing now while that is sauteing, and really it's complete because I don't want it to over saute with the asparagus. And I made this beautiful sauce. That's the hardest thing about virtual classes. You can't smell them. You're gonna have to think ginger and coconut aminos, which is like a soy, and a little bit of chile, and some lemon. And that's what's going on over here. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build in that saucepan with the sauce. And I grated an entire zucchini, right? Small zucchini, and I grated it. And I grated 3 radishes. So I'm going to add these raw grated radishes and zucchini. And then I'm also going to do just a little bit of a grating of this fennel. And if you notice, this fennel is missing something. It's missing its frond because took it all off, and I have a pile of chopped leaf, which is going to be really beautiful as a fresh ingredient.
Look at how big that is. So that's just really like getting a fennel in the height of its season. Have that beautiful. I actually have a big, huge, beautiful one in my fridge.
So
I just want to say one thing. So I just threw my collards in there, and now I'm going to add my broth. I'm going to add my broth in there just to give it more liquid to support it in cooking down. And that will also help so that I don't burn my garlic, since I did put my garlic in first. So I've got my liquid in there. I could even, which I actually might do just for a few moments, is just throw a little top on it just for a few minutes. It's not really the right size top, but it'll work. Just to give it a little ability to steam. And yeah, that's just going to cook down for a moment, and then I'll toss it in a minute. And I've got my heat on kind of medium. It's not that it is my bigger burner, but it's on pretty low. It's probably as low as it can go, almost.
And then if anyone's wondering how I just grated that fennel root, I really just took the entire thing in my hand and then I just grated it, and I end up with a beautiful handful of this fennel root. So I have the zucchini, the radishes, and the fennel root raw, grated. And that grated is going to integrate the sauce that the asparagus is in. And that's going to sop up the sauce in the grated, same thing happens. Like I'll put a salad dressing, I'll grate a bunch of vegetables, throw it over, put a salad dressing on it, and then throw it over a salad. And then I have a few more ingredients. I'm going to put that in. And what I have here, I took a raw kraut, right? Raw sauerkraut. I put it in the blender and I added a whole bunch of probiotic powder and I make a kraut puree. And sometimes I'll add cilantro in here, and then I've got like pesto kraut or basil. You could really play with this. But I love to make these kraut purees where I can inoculate them with more probiotic. And I'm going to add this in. And this is my acid. This ferment acts as like adding vinegar. But instead, I'm adding kraut and I'm adding probiotics, which is just so amazing. And kraut is so wonderful in this. And then I have three other ingredients. So I'm going to toss that. And then I just have three other ingredients that I kept separate that I'm going to layer different. So those are all the things I put together, and I'm going to put it right in the collard. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of red pepper slices and a couple little bits of green onion. And I'm going to put those on top with the stem of cilantro. And why am I doing these separate? Because they are high flavor profile foods. And you could leave them out completely. If you didn't do peppers or you don't do green onion or you don't like cilantro, if you got I'm sad for you if it tastes soapy, but you're probably not sad because you don't like it. So, these are things you could omit, but they're going to be a bite that's going to be different than all of that we put together and combined. And it's going to, play in the mouth in a different way when you take a bite into those collards. So I'm just going to give this a toss. Where are you at, Mary Sheila?
Well, I just want to say that sounds so delicious.
Well, I'm going to bring you some if you want.
Well, I know last time we did our live, we
talked. We would time.
Yeah, we live pretty close to each other. Deanna and I actually live 1.5 miles from each other. Like literally, it's almost exactly 1.5 miles. And so sometimes after these lives, one of us will drive to the other person's house and we'll have half for her and she'll give me half. So I think we might have to do this.
Yeah, because I would love to taste yours.
Yeah, so I put mine in this stove and I've been tossing it. And I think collards are the kind of thing you can sometimes see them in recipes where you cook them for 20 minutes or a half an hour. I don't think I'm going to go that long. I think I'm going to go a little more just, I don't know, al dente. So I'm just tasting them. I just did add a little bit of salt, and they taste pretty good to me. I like them a little bit chewy. So I'm probably going to turn them off soon. And then what I'll do at the end is I'm going to put a little bit of the pecans on top of them. And the pecans I've already soaked and sprouted and dehydrated so that they're really digestible. And then I could always maybe put a little, which actually I think I will, a little bit of lemon zest on top as well when I have it ready to plate. So I just kind of want to keep tossing. I still have a little liquid in here, which is totally fine. It just means that it's, it's nice to have that liquid. That liquid is going to be real flavorful. So yeah, I'm pretty much pretty darn close to being done.
I have a few more steps. So one is, this is my little vegetable mash, right? So I simmered the asparagus, made a sauce, added all the grated ingredients, and then added my probiotic kraut. And it's a little bit wet and soppy, so I just make sure I don't try to get a bunch of liquid in there. There's plenty of liquid in the mixture. And I'm just taking off the very end stem, the last leaf, and I'm taking that part off. And I'm laying in, and I do remove just a little liquid, but I'm laying in we're going in the long direction, so the direction of the stem. And I just put a whole bunch in there. And then I'm going to finish it with some of these red peppers on top, right? And then a little bit of green onion, and that's going to be a bite in there. And then I'm going to put in some of that beautiful cilantro. And like, I'm a fan, so I put a whole bunch. You can decide what you want to do. And I like to leave the stem, but I am giving them just a 4-time little chop with my fingers because I, again, don't want to take a bite and then have a whole string of cilantro come out. So I am giving it just a little. And I just take out the extra liquid. There's a little bit of extra liquid. I don't need to keep doing it. I made them wet. And then I'm going to roll.
Nice.
I'm just going to fold it up just like this, right? And then there is liquid in here. So you don't have to make them this way. You can make them without the sauce and you would be able to, you know, just dip them as you go. And you can choose, you can kind of do a little fold on the ends or you can just keep them open because you're going to eat them. But I have a cute little trick before I just make all the rest the same way. My little trick is because they're juicy, I like to lay them in another layer of romaine lettuce or any lettuce. So I literally see how it's got a little scoopy bowl on the end though. And so I just put both ends into there. And if it leaks, I have a whole nother layer of greens to eat. And it's like eating a salad with a collard green inside. And so this is what I've learned to do. And then sometimes, and maybe I'll even just show you, but I'll take a little bit of black sesame tahini. And if anybody knows me, they know I love tahini. But I have the black sesame tahini. And sometimes if I'm going to make a beautiful display, I'll just drizzle a little bit of black sesame tahini over this on the plate.
Wow.
And that's just an extra, I'm just making a little sauce boat. Isn't it cute? And I've just got more greens going on. And I'm going to go ahead and make a plate of these, and then I will finish them with black tahini, and I'll show you.
Deanna, somebody was just asking, I saw a comment about the probiotic powder recommendation, like what brand
Yeah,
to use.
just tell me more. Tell you more about that. So
Or
basically,
do you, what brand of powdered
I'm
probiotics?
gonna go with something basic that I know you can just find really easy. I really would do Garden of Life's Primal Defense. It's an easy, reliable powder to buy in
Mhm.
a health food store. But you could, any probiotic that comes in a powder, you can add. So it really is just dependent. So you can really play with that. And let's see, what else would I say about it? I just have this really strong feeling about loving ferments, but wanting them to be even a little bit more superfood. And so that's kind of where I go with that. I add my spices so that I'm adding really more super nutrients food into my ferment. And then I'm just making my ferment a little bit stronger and finding a way to play with those probiotics as a food. I feel like my body wants to know probiotics as a food more than a pill. So I'm not saying don't take a pill.
Yeah,
When I travel, I take them with me and I have some in my fridge right now, because I'll use those and just, give myself a little boost. But
right.
I like to get my probiotics in my food, but I feel like I need more than just my average food sometimes has.
And
So
what's
I
nice,
just
yeah.
boost. What do you think?
Well, I think that's great. And whenever I talk to people about taking probiotics, I always ask them first, like, do you like ferments? Do you like pickles and kraut and yogurt and things like that? And if they don't, which a lot of people are like, no, I wish I did, but I just don't. Then that's where we talk more about, taking a probiotic, which you can do even if you do like those foods, but taking a probiotic. And then I love the idea about the powder because then you actually really can get it in your food. And, like Deanna said, you can actually just take a probiotic pill and like dump it. So you can put it into a smoothie or a dressing like she's doing to just give it up into your food so that you're actually you're chewing it in your mouth and it's going down your esophagus, so those microbes are like, they're right there from the very beginning of digestion. So I think that's a really brilliant idea. I like it.
I would buy this and that different kind because I like to use whatever I'm suggesting to people. But I would notice, even though myself and my partner are pretty savvy about knowing we need and what we want and taking care of ourselves, I just noticed those pills end up sitting in my fridge, but the kraut does not. And the powder doesn't, because I can put that powder in yogurt. I can put it in some apple cider vinegar. I can throw it in a little water and just chug it. I find I just use it more where the pills seem to sit. And so if that's you, then we're giving you a good remedy for that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
Well,
and just to show you, I wanted to show you that I plated my greens,
let's
and I sprinkled some pecans on top, so mine are pretty much done.
well, I'm actually pretty much done too. Let me
Awesome.
give it this beautiful little sizzle since I promised it and said I would do it. Here's my beautiful black sesame. They have it at Community Market and they have it at Oliver's, and don't think I've seen it at Andy's locally, but you'll find it around. It might be at Whole Foods too. I haven't really looked for it there.
And then one thing I wanna just say, like, so I just made myself a little bowl, and, I don't you saw how much I started with, and of course it shrinks down. And, like, greens are so chock full of minerals, right? That's what they're holding. That's what plants are pulling minerals up from the earth, up from the soil. So, um, but the minerals are embedded in that matrix of fiber, and so you can see it's really in that fiber, and that fiber is called cellulase or cellulose, and we do not have the enzyme cellulase to break them down. Animals do, but we do not. So when we cook our greens, we soften that fiber so it's those minerals are more accessible to us. Um, but what's really key when we're eating those greens is chewing them and creating as much surface area for our enzymes and our digestive juices to be able to have access to those minerals, right? So we might be eating tons of really healthy food, but if we're just like chomp chomp swallow, so these are very textured, chewy, like hearty greens that do require digestive teamwork, and it starts with our mouth and chewing. And and if when we do not cook them, when we eat these raw, which maybe you could do similar to what you do with a kale salad, and sometimes kind of cold cook it with a little salt and lemon. You can do that with this too. Or if you ate this raw, you just need to know that you might not access as many of the minerals as you would when you cook it. But in that case, it's going to be it's a little more cleansing. And that fiber is, when it's raw, is going to be like the broom helping to sweep things through your intestines. And it's also, that fiber is great nourishment for your microbiome. So you can kind of use you it's good either way. It's not just about only eat them raw or only eat them cooked. It's more thinking, wow, cooked is nourishing and I'm really going to access those minerals, and raw is a little more cleansing and I'm going to really access that, you know, helping me to move things out and support the microbiome. So you get good stuff either way.
Yes. So I'm not doing my tahini because I'm at the end of my jar. And if you've ever had a bottle of tahini, you'll know that it's thicker at the end of the jar. So when it's a newer jar, it's a little bit thinner, and if we really had the time, I would, this, that, and the other.
Dig it
And
out.
the other idea would have been that there is a lot of liquid in my collards. I don't mind that, but if you're like, God, these are so messy and wet, I could have taken either the black or regular sesame, or I could have taken sunflower butter and I could have added it in with that sauce and that grated, and it would have made it just a little bit more bound up, you know. And this is how we learn, right? I made this recipe, I got ready for this class. If I was going to change my own recipe right now, it's not just the tahini didn't look beautiful on top and I couldn't put it on. It would have been a great binder if I would have added it in to that wet raw mixture inside.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing. And I bet when Mary Sheila tastes one, she's gonna be like, flavors there, yummy, yummy. But yeah, would have been nice to just have a little bit of that nutty binder in there. And so this is how we learn. I mean, honestly, this is how we learn. How many times has that occurred for you, Mary Sheila, first time around, and then it's something you know forevermore? You know?
Absolutely. I mean, and I feel like every time you cook is kind of an opportunity to go, oh, that was good that way, or I'm going to do it differently next time, and you learn more. You get to know those species of plants and animals or whatever you're cooking better to then understand it more and cook it differently. And that's a lot of times when people feel like they don't know how to cook or they just all of that stuff, like, we all started there too. I mean, I was not born knowing how to cook. In fact, it took me a while to even feel like I can teach somebody how to cook, and sometimes I'll be making videos and my husband's like, "Are you sure you're doing that right?" But
Oh,
it's just about taking your time and learning. And, that's what we're here to really share with you. Like, how can you be creative and start thinking of ingredients in different ways? And that's, I think, just even your spring rolls. I mean, I made collard green sauteed. That's not like, totally original. But it's nice to see how it's done and
but
see
people
your
still don't always
creativity.
do it.
Exactly. And then to see you wrap this collard with this, asparagus.
And if you just try it with that miso, it's gonna taste so
I
rich.
know, I'm excited. Are you ready to take a bite?
Sure, I'm gonna first show this gorgeous plate because look at these little like lettuce boats.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll take a bite of mine.
I'm gonna take a bite of mine with a pecan on top.
Look at this. Look how cute this is if someone was visiting.
Totally.
A little
Yeah.
salad, appetizer salad before the meal you're making.
Mm.
And look, it holds up. I can just hold right on to it. Mmm. And the sauce is totally built in. That is so fun. I do wish it had a little nuttiness. So,
Well, you could always like maybe sprinkle some of those walnuts I gave you on top or something.
oh, great idea. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
And then you kind of said you were gonna go um more Asian with that. So I wonder if even just toasting some sesame seeds, and then sprinkling those on top would be another nice touch. Sometimes sesame seeds, they just like, I mean, you
And
don't even need much. They just change everything for the better. At
it's
least
so
my,
true. And you know what? It also is about not getting fixed in the kitchen. If I don't get fixed on this black sesame, I
Mhm.
have a thinner, beautiful local sesame that I adore, and it is ready to go.
There you go.
And I can actually, so see, it's just about like, well, that didn't work. Okay, well, then what do I want to do now?
Think outside the box. Which I would say, Deanna, you're like the queen of that.
Gets me in trouble sometimes, but
Yeah.
play is so important. So now I just did a little addition, and now we've got a little tahini on top. I feel so complete now. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed our recipes and our little cooking show today. It's always a pleasure. Deanna and we actually teach um, a edible Ayurveda course, a whole course on nutrition through the Ayurvedic lens. And the next round that we'll be hosting this class is actually going to be in the fall of
Get yourself
2024.
ready.
Yeah, and it's a really amazing class. It's actually in two levels. There's sort of a foundational level, and then the second level that we're in the middle of right now with a group of students is uh, digestive physiology through the Ayurvedic lens, and it gives you the tools because it's one thing to say maybe like my stomach hurts, but it's another thing to say, well, like kind of digest the symptoms of, well, is that because your stomach is too hot or too cold or too wet or too dry? So bringing Ayurveda into figuring out our symptomology. And then in Ayurveda, the general rule is we always do the opposite. So we always do the opposite, and doing the opposite is going to help bring symptoms and bring that organ or gland or whatever back into balance. That's our goal. We're always doing that. Whether
And the
you know,
opposites allow you to get to know all of your remedies and all of your foods and all of your spices that are available that are opposites of those symptoms
yeah,
that our body exhibits, telling us we want more balance.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
the entire program is just so full of information. I'm sorry, I know the two of us teach it. I'm kind of, wow, but it is a very impressive amount of information and videos and how-tos and just a handbook that is about you being able to experience your body and track yourself as far as your symptoms and how one place in the body works with another. And then being able to say, okay, what are my options and my choices for taking care of this, meaning taking care of yourself. And that is just powerful. You could live in this book for the rest of your life and just start making decisions according and see how much balance you start holding on your own because it becomes second nature.
yeah,
But we have to have a handbook before it becomes that. We have to learn before it can become second nature. And that's the same thing as the cooking. And that's also why we have our cooking class in April 25th, right?
yeah,
Beautiful Sunday morning, 10 to 3. And we do a beautiful cooking. We prepare you. You have your shopping list and all your ingredients. And we come together. We just did one. It was beautiful. And we're going to show you 3 different foods that you can do in 3 different ways. And just how much we can look at one food in so many different applications in the kitchen. And so that's our cooking class coming up. And then you can get yourself really ready and prepared to think about our edible Ayurveda course. And think about bringing someone along so you have a study, you have a study friend.
mhm.
It helps so much in the virtual platform, but maybe you'll find one in class.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Deanna, for cooking today. It's always so fun, and thank you guys for watching. And we'll put the links below what we were talking about, and reach out if you have any questions, and try to make some of these recipes and let us know how it goes.
And Mary Sheila, you have a Vitality Club coming up?
I do, yes. Yeah, I have. I run a vitality club, and every month there's a different topic. And this next month is going to be all about really dissecting and understanding more about proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and where they fit in the mix. I like to say, food is information. What is it telling your body? How is it interacting with your physiology? So that you can literally make the best choices, because I think it can feel overwhelming, like should I be keto or vegan or da 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 da. And if you start to understand, okay, this is what this macronutrient is, this is how it acts in the body, you start to understand more about what you might need and when you might need it, rather than having to feel like you have to jump onto this train and jump off that track and go over there. It just gives you more of a firm foundation of maybe some of the things you've never totally learned in school, but you're ready to learn it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just so you know, and then we'll finish up for the day, but on Wednesday morning next week, I am with Oshala Farm in Oregon, my dear friend Elise. And we are going to talk about being a local vor, and we're going to talk about being a global vor and what are the pros and cons and just the conversation of local and global economies and food. And that's just going to be a nice little chat tomorrow, yeah, Wednesday morning. So feel free to join us for that. And yeah,
And is that going to be on your Deanna Center Facebook
it
page?
is.
Okay, so we'll link some of the things that we just talked
Yeah.
about in the comments, so that
Yeah. And that way everybody can stay in contact with us. And just thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you guys. Have a good one.
Adios.